Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Scouting for Growth, the podcast where we explore the sources of success and failure in the world of business and provide insights and strategies for scaling and growing. In this episode, we are excited to welcome Andrei Mincov, the founder and CEO of Trademark Factory, a company that specializes in trademark registration and protection only. Andrei is an expert in intellectual property law and has helped thousands of entrepreneurs and businesses protect their brands and ideas. He's also the author of several books on the subject and is passionate about sharing his knowledge and experience with others. In this episode of Scouting for Growth, Andrei and I will be discussing the importance of trademarks for entrepreneurs and businesses and the common mistakes and misconceptions that people have about the trademarking process. We will also be exploring the role of intellectual property in business growth and success, and the strategy and best practices for protecting and leveraging your ideas and brands. So whether you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, or an investor, this episode is packed with valuable insights and practical advice that will help you navigate the complex world of intellectual property law and achieve your growth and success goals. So let's welcome Andrei to Scouting for Growth. Hi, Andrei. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be with you.
So let's get straight into our conversation, Andrei. Can you tell us who you are, right? And your journey in intellectual property law and how you became and now are practicing legal intellectual property law and supporting young ventures, big ventures. Partly, how did you become passionate about that topic and partly trademarks?
So you answered half the question yourself. So yes, I am the founder and CEO of Trademark Factory. I've been doing this for almost 30 years now as part of intellectual property. But the whole thing started when my father, who was a famous composer in Russia, when he caught a radio station that stole a song that he wrote and turned that into an ad for Samsung without his permission. And back in the day, I was attending my first law school still in Russia. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had no idea I had any interest in intellectual property. But when I came home and he told me about what happened, said, "Hey, can you help me?" And again, I had no idea about intellectual property, but the funny thing is back in the day, it was 1996. Nobody in Russia had any idea because the Russian laws just changed from the socialist Soviet right laws into free market laws, and there were no attorneys with any experience anyway. So I said, sure, let's give it a shot. And as part of that journey, I became really passionate, as you said, about not just my dad, but also, helping people who create something that only exists because they created it to help them protect it against someone who just wants to steal it from them.
Yeah. So what inspired you to set up Trademark Factory, which is your company? It's where you are practicing trademark and intellectual property law. And how does your services differ from anyone else who may be doing the same out there?
Sure. So you may have noticed me mentioning that when I started with my dad, I was in my first law school, right? It was the second because I moved to Canada in 2007. I had enough of Russia, and I had to go back to law school, did my second law school there. And once I graduated from there, I found myself not being invited to join existing law firms for whatever reason they had. I don't care now. But my answer to that was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad book by Robert Kiyosaki and becoming an entrepreneur and taking whatever skills I had, combining them with the entrepreneurial itch that I had, and the combination became Trademark Factory, because what I realized is that the world had a lot of different offers, as you said, in the trademarking field, in the trademarking world. There's a lot of law firms. There's a lot of those fake cheap websites that promise to trademark your brand for $49. And there are a lot of just individual attorneys. And how do you pick? And the problem is the trademarking process takes a long time. And I saw that a lot of entrepreneurs were being taken advantage of. And to me, it was pretty much the same thing as my situation with my dad, right? He got his music stolen from him. Entrepreneurs get their brands and their money and their time and their energy stolen from them by unscrupulous firms that say, hey, we're going to help you with a trademark. And then whoops, it didn't go through. We're sorry, but that's how the system works. Realized that there was a better way to do that. And so I came up with, I call it the guaranteed, the trademark registration services with a guaranteed result for a guaranteed budget, right? Which is, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to protect your brand, all you care about is the results. You don't care how difficult it was. You don't care how much time a lawyer has put into this. All you care about is, did you get it or you didn't? And I wanted to be able to give entrepreneurs exactly that. And that's how Trademark Factory's famous all-inclusive package was born.
Interesting. So for you, it's really about the personalization and this expert guidance you can provide as well as founders, because as you said, there's a lot of unscrupulous individuals out there and taking often young ventures on the ride. And I think it's very important for young ventures to remember that when you start working in Canada, when you start working in the United States, being trademark is critical to actually do business. It's a requirement. And I've learned that myself when I build acceleration program in the United States. The first probably partner we had as part of the acceleration program was a trademark attorney in Hartford, but also you are aiming to apply an innovative approach to actually guarantee the result. So can you explain, Andrei, what is the difference between a trademark process maybe in Canada with the United States, or maybe the UAE where you are today? And what should businesses consider? Should I just trademark in one country? Should I trademark in multiple countries? What are the things I need to think about when I go for trademarking my brand?
So it's like DNA trademarking. Like you know this. They always say, hey, the DNA of a human and DNA of like of a pig, they're 90-something% the same. So it's pretty much the same thing with trademarks. Most of it is the same around the world, whether it's US, Canada, European Union, UAE, or any other country. The vast majority of it is the same. Okay. There are small differences here and there, and obviously you need to understand them to be successful in those countries. But this is not really something that I think entrepreneurs should care about, right? That's why providers exist who can navigate you through this. What is important is to understand the basics. And what I find more problematic is that entrepreneurs, they refuse to, because they think that trademarking is so difficult, it's so complex, that they sort of, refuse to think to understand even the basics. And that's the problem, because one thing that we've noticed is that the success rate of your trademark application is directly related to your willingness to understand the basics, right? What is trademarking? What are you even protecting when you do the trademark? What do you need to show to the government to show that it's a brand and not just a cute name or a cute image, right? Things like that. And we find that entrepreneurs are like, no, I don't care, like just take my money and do it for me. Usually we can't, because we need to understand the business. We need to understand what it is that they're trying to do. And if they're not willing to cooperate, if they're not willing to, at least at the very basic level, understand what this is about, it's going to be a problem. But I don't think that entrepreneurs should be expected to understand, hey, the minute differences. Like, for example, in the US, you cannot trademark a title of a single book, right? You can only trademark a title of a series of books. Right? They have this very specific provision in the law that tells you. You don't have that in Canada, right? But is this something that's really important to a business owner? Probably not, right? It's important that they deal with someone who understands that. And if they are trying to trademark a title of a book, then they'll tell them, in Canada you can, and US you can't. Or another one is the marijuana brands, right? Again, they're illegal in the US on the federal level. They're legal in Canada, and it goes from country to country. So things like that, you want to have someone be able to explain to you. But on the general level, what trademarks protect is the brand, right? Whether it's the name, whether it's the tagline, whether it's a logo or some combination. And the purpose of a trademark, which one of the biggest misconceptions I see with people who don't understand trademarks, is that you don't own the word, you don't own the image, you own the mental association between that word or a phrase or an image and specific products and services that you sell. Yeah. So like in the US, my favorite example is Delta, right? There's Delta Airlines, they own a trademark for Delta, and there's Delta Faucets. And there's a completely different company, and they sell faucets under the same name, and they both have the trademark Delta. And the idea behind it is that nobody in their right mind would be ordering a faucet thinking that they're buying it from an airline, and nobody's going to be buying air tickets just because they liked the faucets, right? So the assumption is that people are smart enough to be able to allow them to coexist. So when someone tells me, hey, how can you trademark a dictionary word? Like, it's so unfair. Like, all of our words will be trademarked and all those greedy capital. Like, this is so silly. Like, what can be more dictionary? What can be more common than Apple?
Yes.
Yet it is one of the most valuable brands in the world. Like, it's measured in hundreds of billions of dollars, just the brand itself.
And the connection people make when thinking about a green apple or apple.
Yeah. And the reason is they're not in the business of selling apples. They're in the business of selling, computers, iPads, phones, all of that stuff. And because of that, it makes it a strong brand. But imagine if they didn't own it. Imagine if they didn't have the legal right to tell their competitors that they couldn't call their phones an iPhone, that they couldn't call their tablets an iPad. That's what makes the brands more valuable. Or Nike. Another great example, like, you take a white t-shirt that costs you 25 cents on the market, right? You put a swoosh on it, you say, just do it. And here you are selling it for $50 and everyone's happy to buy it from you.
Yeah, which is the price a lady who designed this swoosh for Nike was paid. And there was a recent conversation.
She got paid $35. She got paid $35 for that.
Right? And there was a conversation and wondering whether it was maybe time to pay a little bit more from her invention.
It's not that she was being paid for, it was being done as part of her employment duties, right? Correct. Which is why they just paid her the salary. And who knew, right, that it became such a valuable piece of marketing.
Yeah. So when you look at how long it takes to trademark an asset and a brand, I hear it's different from countries to countries. And the next question is there a timestamp on a trademark, or is it for life?
Okay, great questions. So let me start with the last part of your question. trademarks is the only type of intellectual property that you can own in theory forever. Everything else expires. Copyrights expire, patents expire, industrial designs expire. Trademarks, if you keep renewing your trademark every 10 years, you can own it forever. One of my favorite examples is Coca-Cola. They filed their first trademark in 1892. They're still renewing that same trademark, right? I don't see them no longer renewing it in the near future because, again, this is their most valuable asset. It's more valuable than their trucks, than their recipes, than their factories. It's the brand. They can pour whatever they want in that bottle. People are still going to buy it, right? So in theory, you can own it forever as long as you renew it in time. The registration process, you're right. It's different from country to country. In the US, it's about 1.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
In Canada, it's close to 4 years. In European Union, it's about 10 months. And again, I can throw those timelines, but that's kind of the general idea. What some people think is, it's like a domain name. You go somewhere, you pay them $20, and it's yours. Well, not really. With trademarks, it's very different on 2 levels. First of all, it takes much longer to get there. But the second big difference with domain names is that it's not just about identical matches. So what do you do with a domain name that you want to stake in, right? You just add an underscore here, or like a number 1 at the end, or like my in the front, or the in the front, and hey, you got a domain name. That's not how it works with trademarks. Because with trademarks, they will not give you that trademark if they think it's too close to something that's already trademarked, right? It's called likelihood of confusion. That goes to sound alikes, mean alikes, look-alikes, translations, and like they do a very thorough research at the trademarks office, and their goal is to protect the trademarks that had already been trademarked first. So they're not really interested in giving you your registration. They already got your money anyway, right? They're not going to give you a refund on the government fees. So their goal is to make sure that they're not letting through something that shouldn't be let through. And if they see something that's too close, they're going to issue what's called an office action, and they're going to say no. And it's going to be up to you and your trademark attorneys to argue if there is an argument to be made.
Interesting. So for you, Andrei, why it is important for entrepreneurs and businesses globally to trademark their brand as early as possible?
So there's, again, a 2-part answer to this. First, why trademark? Because if you plan to be in business for some time, for several years, for many years, hopefully, the brand will become the most valuable asset of your business. Funny enough, Alex Hormozi, who's the influencer, the mentor that I follow very closely, he recently realized how important the brand is, because the brand helps him make the deals that he wouldn't have otherwise been able to make. And he talks about this a lot these days, about how a brand makes it so much easier for you to attract better talent, to attract better leads at a lower cost, to advertise at lesser cost. So that's why you want to trademark. Now, why do you want to do it early? And the reason for that is really, as long as you file your trademark a day before somebody else does, you're good. The problem is you don't know when someone else may file for a similar trademark, right? And one thing I know for sure, that by the time you have grown a big, successful, profitable business, someone will have already trademarked your brand. Might as well be you, right? And that's the risk that we're willing to take as entrepreneurs who go out there, spend our time, spend our money, spend our energy trying to build a brand, trying to build a business without any protection. Because the idea that, hey, I came up with this name first, doesn't matter in trademark world. That's not what you can explain to the judge. Nobody cares who came up with that first. All the world cares about is who made an effort to protect it first. And in US and Canada, there's this thing called common law trademark, and lawyers love talking about this. But the problem with common law trademarks is that the only type of people who benefits from common law trademarks are lawyers, because they're the ones who are going to be charging you hundreds of thousands of dollars in a trademark litigation where you're going to try to prove to the judge that you got to be that some rights need to be recognized because of your efforts to promote the brand around the country. And it's hard to do. Takes experts, takes evidence, takes witnesses, takes lawyers, and that's why it costs so much. Whereas all you need to do is just get that one piece of paper. That's why they invented the trademarking system, because they realized, like, common law trademarks, and they existed for a long time, for a very long time, because they realized that one vendor needed to be able to have some protection against someone who tries to rip them off. But then during the industrialization age, they realized, hey, this is taking too long. This is too uncertain. This is too expensive. Why don't we give businesses a legal tool that would make it really easy for everyone to separate those who care about their brands from those who don't? And the litmus test here is, if you go and trademark your brand, like you go to the government and say, hey, I care about my brand. Here's a small government fee. Please write it down in some of your government books. And now everyone knows that I care about my brand. That's what trademarking really is, right? And this allows you to separate those guys from someone who said, you know what, I don't really want to do this. I'd rather take the risk. And if someone steals my brand, I'll either let it go or I'll go for the more expensive way of fighting this. And really the same thing applies today. The very first thing that any lawyer will do, if let's say you are an entrepreneur and you get a cease and desist letter from someone else, and they say that, hey, you're infringing on our trademark, you're a bad guy, right? And let's say you take this letter to your lawyer. The very first thing the lawyer is going to do is they're going to check, hey, did those guys who wrote me this letter, did they trademark this brand? If the answer to that is no, then the lawyer is probably going to tell them, ignore this, because they didn't bother to spend a little bit of money to protect their brand. The likelihood that they're going to spend a lot of money to sue you in court is almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Is sending a letter for, either for free or for a couple $100, well, it's easy. Taking this to court and
It's
actually spending 30, 50, 70, 130 grand, which happens all the time with trademark litigation, I don't think they'll find it. But if that same lawyer does the check and say, hey, they're actually trademarked, now his advice would be, they got it trademarked. It's going to make it really easy for them to win because they're trademarked. They're probably going to have a lineup of lawyers who are going to be willing to take this case on a contingency basis, meaning that you only pay lawyers if you win. Like, if I were you, the lawyer would say, I would very quickly walk away from this brand and pretend this never happened, right? And that's done. Like, you can check whether someone trademarked the brand or not in a matter of seconds.
I guess so. But what I hear from you, actually, Andrei, is trademarking, in some ways, it's about building brand recognition, right? It allows you to build a brand and be recognized. And as you said, because you're recognized, you can maximize your marketing costs, but also minimize the time it takes to find your next customer, because you have won credibility and hopefully customer loyalty. And that is what I hear from some of the commentary you are making. And then you also mentioned some of the common misconceptions and mistakes companies are doing when they think about the whole trademark activity they need to undertake. Could you share with us some examples, some great examples you have experienced in your life working with great founders, great companies, and less so great case studies, so then we can actually create a bit of a warning for companies out there who might not have trademarked their business just yet?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception is referring to your brand as your brand before it's trademarked, because it's really not your brand. You don't own it. Until it's trademarked, you don't own it. And owning means you being able to legally stop others from using your brand to sell products and services similar to yours. So, and I would say that it's not that you even don't own your brand. It's not even a brand yet. It's just a word or a phrase or an image that you want to be your brand, but that's it. And that's kind of the biggest one. And a lot of people say, hey, you can send yourself a letter with that brand, and don't don't open it, or you can put a copyright symbol next to it, or you can put TM symbol next to it, or you can get it to me. Like, all of this is great, but it doesn't work. Uh, it's just not a replacement. And anyone who tells you that it is, they either don't know what they're talking about, or they're expecting to get a lot more money from you after, when they're going to be, hey, we can help. It's not a big problem. We can secure this for you. It's just going to be a very quick litigation. We're just going to, show the judge that you were there first. Like, it never goes that way. Like that's one. The other one, it's probably a funny story, funny misconception. It's actually one of our internal nightmare stories at Trademark Factory. So when you file a trademark, and I kind of alluded to this when I talked about Delta story, right? When you register a trademark, you register it in association with specific products and services. And so what they've done is they've divided all possible products and services that exist in the world into 45 categories. They call them classes. There are 34 classes of physical products and 11 classes of services. And so when you file your trademark, you say, okay, so I want this in class 25 for apparel, I want it for class 41 for podcasts, and I want this for class, I don't know, 35 for online retail store, and maybe a business consulting service. Okay, great. And so they call them classes. And we still remember a client who, like, we spent, I don't know how long explaining to her the concept of the trademarking and the classes and all of that. And so about 7 months later into the process, we get a really frustrated email from her saying, so when am I going to get my classes? Like, what do you mean? Like, we filed your trademark in this class and in that class. Yeah, I get that. But when am I going to get the classes? So she expected the classes to be someone teaching her how to do it. And we were like, how do you explain this? And like, we went on trying to explain that probably like 5 different ways. And she's still upset with us that she didn't get the classes, but we got her that registered trademark. But
That's a funny story, yes.
but again, look, this goes to the idea of how much do we expect business owners to know, right? This is funny because it's probably one thing we would expect them to understand, but I don't expect them to understand every single minute detail, because that's what we're for.
Yeah, fascinating. And, as you said, is, because I've done so many trademarks, I understand the classes and you need to really align to your classes, but also, Andrei, business change. And I think that is a question I've had before. What do you do when your business change? And, right now with the fast evolution of technology and AI, can people go back and say, I need to add an additional class to my trademark?
Great question. No, you cannot. You have to file a new one. And that's how big guys like Apple and Amazon end up owning over 1,000 trademarks. A lot of them are like in the US alone. Like Apple, I think, has got 1,300. Amazon's got 1,300. And a lot of them are the same trademark. They just keep refiling it for new products and services.
Okay.
And I think it's proof that the old system is getting close to not working as well as it was designed. Because back in the day when they came up with all this, the speed of distribution, the speed of growth was completely different compared to what it is today.
100%.
If you were a company that were selling, I don't know, leather bags in Ohio, right? The idea was, hey, you can own the brand for leather bags for the federal trademark in the US, and that should protect you. And the assumption was it's very unlikely that you would start going into completely different direction, that you would start doing podcasts about leather bags, that you would start, putting together some software that allows people to customize their bags. Like that's not how the world worked before.
Yeah.
And also, they didn't expect that if you were just a small company that makes leather bags in Ohio, that you'd be selling those bags to Europe, to Asia, to everywhere, right? And that's why they thought, well, if they really want to expand and go beyond that original thing, they'll be able to file those trademarks in other countries. They'll be able to file those additional trademarks for additional classes of goods and services. Because again, back in the day, that was reasonable that if you're that big, if you're that interested in expansion, you can probably afford to pay a little bit of money. But now, today, everyone's global on day one, and everyone's doing different things on day one, and we keep pivoting and we keep. So today, the system is not really equipped to address that. But that's unfortunately the only system that we've got, right? I can bitch and moan about, hey, it doesn't fully address today's realities, but yeah, it doesn't. So what are you going to do about it, right? You as an entrepreneur, you're in this position today, right? What the system is going to look like 10 years from now, I have no idea. I mean, I think I have some thoughts on this, but it doesn't matter. Right? What matters is you're here today and you want to be successful today, and you want to have your brand protected today, and you want to have revenue today and not based on what might happen 10 years from now. So,
yeah, fascinating. So let's talk about Andrei. How do you balance your work as a CEO of Trademark Factory with your other passion, professional pursuits, and personal pursuit as well? Tell us how you mix it all.
Well, I'm sitting in front of what I call a drum desk. Right, this is a fully functional drum desk combined with an office desk.
Okay.
So drum kit with like I've got my drumsticks. So like I can work and play at the same time. That's one part of it. The other part of it is like a lot of my out of Trademark Factory work is music, whether it's drumming or writing music. And I just got back from LA a couple months ago now, where I did rock camp, where I got to play the drums with some of my childhood idols, right? I played the drums next to Tommy Aldridge from Whitesnake. I played the drums with Michael Anthony, the bass player from Van Halen. I played the drums next to Warren DeMartini, the guitarist from Rat. And I played the drums with Sebastian Bach, the ex-singer from Skid Row, right? Like, and to me, that's what makes me smile outside of work and outside of business. I've got a wife and a wonderful 3 kids, and that's always lots of fun. There's I think that one of the reasons I do what I do, one of the reasons I decided to go to the intellectual property side of law is because it allows me to be next to this artistic side of me more. So it's not just dealing with people's problems and people hating one another and people fighting one another, but actually doing something that's positive, something that helps them build a better business, build a stronger brand. So we're like, we don't do litigation. All we do is we just do the positive thing, right? It's securing their assets. We know how to do it. We know how to do it better than anyone else out there. I strongly believe in that. We deal with situations that keep me positive during the day when I'm working, but even outside of that, it's the music, it's family, and I moved to Dubai a couple of years ago from Canada, and it's an amazing place to be. There's lots to life than not just work.
Yes, yeah, absolutely agree with that. It's always about finding the work-life harmony. I mean, it's probably a better word than the word balance. And yes, you mentioned you are living in Dubai. My question that come to mind, because you moved from Canada to Dubai, are your customer mostly located in the United States and Canada, or are you covering clients from all around the globe?
Yeah, great question. No, 99.98 of our clients are in North America, so US and Canada, and the trademarks that we follow are also US and Canada. So just because I am personally someone who doesn't like snow very much, someone who likes the sun, who doesn't like Justin Trudeau, doesn't mean that all of our clients need to be. So, we've always worked with North American entrepreneurs, North American businesses, and we continue to do so.
So my last question to you, Andrei, is, looking at where the trademark and intellectual property world is going, are there any emerging trends we should pay attention to? And what would be your top tips for the entrepreneurs, for the businesses who are there listening to this discussion around, maybe actioning and making sure they are doing the right things around their trademarks and protecting their IP?
Well, look, the trends will be eventually, I think the governments will need to convene at some big conference and come up with a new way to operate trademarks, because you can't do it locally, right? You can't just come up with, hey, we're going to have a completely different trademarking system from the rest of the world. It's not going to work. Yeah. So they'll need to figure out some international treaty around that. So it's going to take time. So in terms of suggestions, here's one. If you are an entrepreneur, if you've been building your business, if you've been hoping to get somewhere with it, and if you're working every day and you're going to bed thinking of your business and you're waking up thinking of your business, there was a moment when you started that business, when you came up with a name, when you came up with a logo, when you came up with a tagline, there was a reason you made that decision. The one thing I got to tell you is that your brand, that idea, that dream that you have of making that word mean something, not just to you and your dog, but to a lot of people, it's not worthless. It has value, right? It may have potential value at this point, right? It might not be worth very much if an independent evaluation was made today. But the only way it will be valuable by the time your business becomes successful is if you own it today. And there's going to be a lot of people around you who are going to laugh at you, who are going to tell you that you're in a la land, that you're wasting your time on getting it right. And in many cases, that'll be right, because a lot of businesses will not succeed. But the benefit of winning is that all of these people around you who are laughing and telling you that you should get a real job or do something real, is that when you win, they shut up.
Yeah.
And the only way to win is to have a product that people want, product or a service that people want, packaged in an offer that's compelling to a lot of people, and that's memorable, that they can find, among dozens and dozens of similar variants and variations, and that's what brands are for. So if you're serious about trying to build something that will be still there 3, 5, 10 years from now, think of trademarking your brand today. And if you want to have a conversation with our team about how we can help you get this done, this is something that we do. That's honestly the only thing that we do. We don't do anything other than trademarks. We don't do copyright. We don't do patents. We don't do litigation. All we do is we file trademarks, and we have a 99.3% rate of success, which is unheard of in this industry.
That's amazing, Andrei. I'm fascinating. So where can people find you? Because you said, you come to us. Where can they find you?
Trademarkfactory.com. And we are going through some big pivots as we speak. So I don't know when this airs, but we are working on completely redesigning the website and making it simpler and just different. But the main idea stays the same. If you want to trademark a brand with a guaranteed result for a guaranteed budget, we can do that for you. If you want to do some, menu, I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, we'll be able to offer it to you. And there's a lot of free stuff that you can get on the website, and you can get also on our YouTube channel. So I've published over 1,000 videos. If you ever had a question about trademarks, I've probably answered it more than once. So if you want to just check it out, check us out on YouTube. Just also search for Trademark Factory. You'll find us.
Perfect. Andrei, thank you very much for all of this. So I will make sure that in the podcast note, we have your detail at Trademark Factory, and we have the link to your podcast as well on YouTube, your channel on YouTube, so that people can get some snippet as to how to be trademark and IP ready. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth, Andrei.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.